going on, guys? I'm Joe Ghost, and welcome to the second edition of my In the Studio tutorials. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you for all the support on the first one. I liked all your feedback, and I'm happy you guys enjoyed it. So for this tutorial, I'm going to answer your questions that you asked on the last video, and I'm going to use my Rihanna remix as the basis to show you guys. So let's jump into it. As you can see, like I said in my first video, I like to group all my channels together. So I have my drums, and then my leads, and then all my FX and the vocals up here. So the first question we're going to answer is from Gabriel Anel, and he asked about parallel compression. So to understand parallel compression, you first need to understand what compression is. And compression is basically a technique that's used to squish down your audio signal on a bunch of parts and sort of glue them together so they sound like one loud part together. And when you get that effect, you get, so say with your drums, you get hi-hats that sound louder, that stand out more in the mix. But the only thing with that sometimes is you lose a dynamic range in your track. So that's where somebody came up with a great, brilliant idea of parallel compression. And what parallel compression is having your original signal with your parts and adding in on a separate channel your parallel compression and trying to mix them two together. So you're getting the effects of a compression and also your clean signal and finding the medium between both. So the way I do this, I achieve this, is I'll do it with my drum tracks. So I'll solo all my drums. And this is the drums. This is the drums without any compression. Now what I'll do is I'll create a separate track and I'll send all of my drum tracks just to that new track we made. I'm going to call this parallel drum compression. Send all my drums to it. All right, now we're gonna hit the record button on it and record the drums. So what you end up with is basically the track bounced down. So it sounds like this. So now what we're going to do with that is we're going to add a compressor to it. And for the video's sake, I'm going to use the compressor that comes with Ableton, because all you guys will have it. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a lot of compression on it. Something out of this world that just squishes everything down. Something really, really crazy that we wouldn't normally do on a track. So we'll give it like a short attack, a high release. We'll cut the threshold down a lot and give it like a really crazy ratio. So it's going to sound really, really, really compressed right now. Use the FF1 model just because it's Ableton says that's the one with the more aggressive feel to it. Give it a little bit more of a look ahead. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring the volume down to 0 on it, so it's not coming through anymore. And then we're going to solo all our drums. So that's a clean signal coming through. And then we're going to unmute our compressed drums and slowly bring the volume up and mix it with the uncompressed drums. So we can find a nice balance where we're getting that super compressed sound and also it's the loudness of the original track. Right about there, it sounds really nice. We're getting the loudness of the compressed drums. We're hearing all of the things coming through. You're getting that crunchiness, but you're still getting the dynamics and the fatness of the original. So this is it without. See, it sounds like very dry and stiff. And then add in and with the parallel, it just sounds a lot louder. So that's parallel compression. It's a technique you can use on everything: your leads, your drums, your bass. It's just something I find like some people start to use it too much because it's a really cool effect. You just got to make sure, because if you end up using all your channels, you end up running into the same problem where you lose all the dynamics in the track. For the next question came from Steve Glacier, and he asked me about sidechain compression. So briefly in my first video, I talked about Kickstarter, how I use that for my sidechaining. It's a great, useful tool. But sometimes there's only like 6 or 7 presets on it. You can't find exactly what you need. So that's where the original way of doing compression comes in, sidechain compression. So I'm going to show you on my main lead how I did this. So this is my main lead, sidechain. Now I use Kickstart for that. As you can see, it creates a nice little like swinging effect, and it helps keep the groove of the track. If I take the sidechain compression off, you lose a groove. It sounds really stiff, and it'll start competing with the kick drum. Let's see here. They're both competing for that space. So in order to sidechain it, I'll show you. Get the compressor. And you're going to want to create a ghost channel or a channel for your kick drum. So I have a channel right at the top. It's all my kicks and it's muted, and we're going to send that to our compressor. So if you click this little play button here, it loads up another section, and click sidechain, and then click your sidechain kick, and it'll send a signal to this, and that's telling the compressor, hey, here, this is where the kick drum's coming through. We need to like push it down a bit. So to understand how to use a compressor, you need to first look at these things: attack, release, threshold, and ratio. So the attack is how soon the signal you're sending comes in. Release is how long it lasts. The threshold, how long it's going to take for the sound to come up to be pushed down. And the ratios, how many decibels it's going to take in order for the signal to get pushed down. So I like to have a short attack, a bit of a long release. I'll usually bring the threshold down to about here. Ratio is usually around between 3 and 4, I like. So if we put that in. So as you can see, it's pushing it down. It needs to be pushed down a bit more. We're going to lower the threshold. Up the attack a bit. So as you can see over here, this is the signal, the kick pushing down, and by adjusting these, we're adjusting how much of it comes through. So around here sounds really good. We're still getting the groove, and the melody still sounds proper. Okay, so next one, Dan Spazbo asked me about full sounding bass. Bass that I like is bass that doesn't stick out too much in the mix, but it's there when you look for it and you can feel it. And also something that really comes through in the high ends. Just so you could hear on all the systems, because in clubs they have a bigger dynamic range, so a lot more comes through, but in your car, on your computer, on your laptop, you can't always hear those lower and higher ranges. So it's key to make sure that it sounds good on everything. So for my sub bass, I usually end up using a triangle as my first waveform. I'll show you just it by itself. It gives a nice harmonics and a nice feel to it. And then I'll also add in a square wave, which gives it that roundness and fatness. And then I usually make the decay on the filters and the cutoff, take them up a bit, and the release up a bit, so it just gives it a bit more of a groove. So with them off, it sounds like stiffer, not much of a groove, and a little more of like a pluck, like groove to it. And then obviously side chaining, so it's not competing with the bass. The kick drum. For EQing, I always like to take out where the EQing from the kick has come from. So this kick is punching through at around 50 hertz. So I usually cut that totally out, so it's not competing. This one, I usually boost a bit in the lower ends. This one didn't need it. I cut up the mid-range, just because it was competing with my leads a little too much. And then I gave it a little bit of a notch on the higher frequency. So together with the kick, you can hear the click. You can hear the kick really clean. You hear the bass. Everything flows really nicely, and there's no muddiness in the end or the high end. So my next question, Joe Cordy asked me, how do I make an acapella? So in Ableton, it's actually easy to make your own acapella. It doesn't sound like the studio acapella. Obviously, studio acapellas are the best to use, but if you need something quick for a mashup or for a mix, you can always make your own. It's actually easy to make. All you need is the actual track and the instrumental. So let's load up. I'm going to use Zed's new track as an example. So drag them in. The top layer I have the original, and the second track I have the instrumental. So first thing you need to do is line them up, make sure they're lined up perfectly. That's good. And then you don't need to do the step, but I like to do it because usually vocals don't have anything coming in the low end, so it's easier to cut out. So I'll bring in equalizer and just cut out low end. And you got to make sure, this is an important thing, whatever you do on one channel you need to do on the other, because the technique we're going to be using is phasing out. We're going to phase out channels. So if one is louder than the other, one has something going on, it won't work that the other one doesn't have. So I have it on both. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to the utilities and grab a phaser and put it on the instrumental channel. And then make sure it's phasing on the right and left channel. So what happens with this effect when you do that is it cuts it out. So let's turn off the phaser, and what you have is this. I see what you're wearing. And then when I turn the phaser on, the phasing on, I see what you're wearing. There's nothing beneath it. Forgive me for staring. You get a cleaner signal with a lot of everything that's going on, both tracks cutting out, except the vocals coming through a little louder. And that's a useful tool. The next one comes from Mario Jurek, and he asked me what my promo email is. My promo email is promo@joeghostonline.com. You can send me stuff. I always try to listen to everything. I get so much, but I try to help out and listen to everything that you guys send me. So thank you guys. I hope you learned a lot. Keep sending me questions. Comment below. I'd like to hear what you guys want to know, what you guys think about it, and I'll try to record the next one for you really quick. Thanks, guys.